I grew up really enjoying going to the horse farm my aunt ran. Every time I rode a horse, I always felt an overwhelming sense of excitement and freedom, especially the moment when I was running on the track. Even though I occasionally got hurt while riding, it didn't stop me from loving horseback riding. Every time I ride, I feel a special bond and understanding between myself and the horse, a feeling that cannot be described in words. The horse farm my aunt runs is a beautiful place. Besides riding horses, I could also see other animals. This made my love for nature even deeper. I remember it was a weekend afternoon. The ground at the horse farm was a little muddy because it had rained a lot a few days before. But it didn't affect my boyfriend and I. We were still very excited to go horseback riding. We arrived at the horse farm, I said hello to my aunt and chose a gray horse. I skillfully climbed on the horse's back and we ran 2 laps around the horse farm. We came to the hurdles and I said to my boyfriend, "I want to try a higher jump." My boyfriend nodded and reminded me to be safe. As I approached the hurdles, I felt excited and thrilled and decided to sprint as fast as I could. But just then, a voice appeared and told me to slow down. However, I ignored the voice, thinking that I was skilled enough to handle any situation. Suddenly, I felt the horse's hooves slip and both I and the horse lost control. I tried to pull the reins tighter, but it was too late. I lost my balance and my whole body flew forward, hitting my head hard on the ground. I was now acutely aware of how foolish my confidence and recklessness had been. With a violent dizziness, I gradually lost consciousness. Everything around me started to become a blur. My consciousness began to fade until I eventually disappeared completely into the darkness. After spending some time in the darkness, I suddenly felt a great force pushing me up. When I opened my eyes, I was surprised to find myself standing in the same place. My body was lying on the ground, as if I had died. I was so shocked that I felt like I was in a wonderful dream. I could feel that my consciousness was completely separated from my body. Then I heard that familiar voice. He said from behind me, "Come on, we have to get out of here." When I turned my head, I saw a little boy. I think an angel would be a better description of him. He looked only 10 years old and had a lovely face. He was wearing a white robe embroidered with golden flowers. His golden hair shone like the sun, and his wings were made of translucent feathers. This angel made me feel a sense of warmth and security. He told me that the demons of hell were coming and that we had to get out of here right away. I asked him where we were going. He did not give me a clear answer, but only repeatedly emphasized that we must leave immediately. As the angel pointed into the distance, I saw a group of dark spirits approaching me. These dark souls were wearing black robes. Although their bodies could not be seen clearly, their claws were very visible and seemed to be able to pierce anything easily. The dark clouds around them also made them look even more terrifying. They gave off an evil aura. Their skin was dark, as if they had been baked by fire. Their eyes were all red, like burning coals. I looked at the angel floating above my head, and he held out his hand for me to grab him. As I flew upward with the angel, I saw the ground become smaller and smaller. The outline of the earth slowly appeared in front of me. We were going faster and faster, and the image became more and more blurred. Suddenly, we appeared in a beautiful place. I saw a magnificent city. The city consisted of huge golden buildings that gave off an endless glow. We walked through the gates of the city and entered a wide square. There were many angels and souls gathered in the square. Some of them smiled at me and welcomed my arrival. In this place, I felt an indescribable joy. My body became light, and all the pain and fatigue disappeared. I knew that I had arrived in heaven, a beautiful and sacred place. Here, you don't feel hot or cold, and there is no hunger or thirst. This place is so perfect. The angel said to me that he was leaving and that there were others who needed help. I thanked the angel and then he disappeared. After I walked into a room, I saw two old men. They looked very kind. The clothes they were wearing were also very strange and looked very old. There was a very heavy book on the table in front of them. One of them looked at me and asked me with a serious look, "Why are you here? Shouldn't you be down there?" His words made me feel confused and scared. I trembled and replied, "Are you saying I should be down there?" I felt that he was implying to me that hell was where I should be. They all seemed to see my confusion and laughed. One of them pulled out a book with names written all over the thick pages. He told me that this was the list for the day, but my name didn't appear on it. I didn't quite understand what he meant. Then, he turned the book back many pages, and I was surprised to see my name appear on it. I wanted to know what it meant, but they just smiled and told me that my time had not yet come and that I should return to Earth. I looked at them and didn't know what to say. I hesitated for a moment and then asked, "Can I stay?" He replied, "You must go back. You are part of God's plan." I was confused and wondered what my role was in God's plan. I asked further, "How will you send me back?" Another old man replied, "We will take you to Jesus, and he knows what to do." I tried to understand all this, but I didn't know what God's plan was or why I had to go back. The old man seemed to feel my heart and he smiled and said, "Don't worry, Jesus will show you the way and he will assist you in your mission." The old man flew me upward and we passed through a cloud. A dazzling light appeared before my eyes. There, I saw a man clothed in a white robe whose light covered the entire sky. I knew it was Jesus, and his presence made me feel a powerful energy. His gaze was gentle and deep. Even though I had made mistakes, I felt unconditional love and forgiveness in his gaze. He reached out his hand and gently stroked my head. I felt my body become lighter, as if I had flown up into the clouds. I was enveloped in the love of Jesus. No matter what happened, I knew he would always be with me. My soul was healed and a peace and strength radiated from within. I knew that I was no longer alone. In that moment, I felt that my existence was no longer an isolated one, I was integrated with all things. It was an experience that transcended time and space. Jesus invited me to sit down in his presence. His hand held mine, allowing me to feel his warmth and strength. His hair and beard were brown and glowed with divine light. I felt his love and concern for me. He understands everything I have done in my life, good or bad. Then he took out a book. I saw my own image in it. The scenes in the book were constantly changing, as if the timeline was moving forward and backward. I saw the scene when I was first born. My family was gathered around my bed, cheering loudly. My parents were so happy about my arrival, and my sister was amusing me. Then, I saw my childhood in the book. I was riding a bicycle in the park. It was the first time I rode a bike. I kept falling down, and my father was by my side all the time and kept encouraging me. I turned the book back a few pages, and I saw a scene in a hospital. I saw a woman giving birth. To my further amazement, that woman was myself. I saw myself lying on a delivery bed, sweat soaking my forehead. Doctors and assistants were all around me, offering support and help. A few hours later, I finally gave birth to a lovely baby. My whole body had no more strength at that time. I looked at my baby and felt that everything was worth it. Curiously, I turned the last page of the book and I saw myself lying in my bed at home. My hair was all white. My face was covered with wrinkles, and I looked very frail. I knew my life was coming to an end. I was surrounded by many people who were with me. My children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren were all around me. They gave me great comfort. Finally, Jesus told me that I could choose to stay in heaven, but he wanted me to return to earth. I was very confused, so I asked him, "What does it mean that I am part of your plan?" He explained to me my mission on earth. I pondered for a while and then told him, "I am willing to go back." Jesus told me, "When you return to earth, you will have a healthy body again." Suddenly, I felt a powerful energy coming from him that was warm and full of strength. I felt myself surrounded by endless love. The scene around me gradually blurred and I felt like I was traveling through an infinitely dark tunnel. At the end of the tunnel was a bright light. I saw a familiar land, and the scenery and people around me were very real. Jesus was not beside me, but I could feel his company and shelter. I realized that I had returned to earth. Compared with the journey to heaven, the journey back was not too long. I slowly opened my eyes, and I saw the sunlight again. I took a deep breath and tried to stay awake. My boyfriend stayed by my side to comfort me. At that moment, the sound of an ambulance came and I breathed a sigh of relief. The doctors and nurses quickly lifted me onto a stretcher and began the first aid treatment. With the help of the doctors and nurses, I was brought into the hospital. The doctors told me there was nothing too serious wrong. They cleaned my wounds and stitched up some small cuts. Then they bandaged my wounds and told me to rest for a few days. My parents also arrived at the hospital. They looked very worried. I assured them that I was fine and just needed a few days of rest. It's been 8 years since this incident. I still have a scar on my forehead. Every time I look in the mirror, I remember that amazing experience. It was a life-changing moment for me. Now I have people and things that I love. Jesus has taught me how to love, how to appreciate life, and how to pursue my dreams.